Let's move on to the topic of cyberbullying and harassment online amongst friends. Have you ever experienced that kind of ganging up on or people harassing you online?
Yes. I was
Tell me about that.
There were Instagram accounts created, like fake Instagram accounts created by some of my fellow dancers at some point last year that were used to mock and ridicule me. Uh Now it wasn't very effective because a lot of what they were saying was just kind of funny and also a reflection on themselves as dancers because they were calling out that I was being too professional, which I feel like, especially in a professional setting, is more of a reflection on the person who thinks that someone's being too professional because it probably means you're not taking it seriously enough. Um, but the actual nature of it aside, yes, that it's definitely an issue, and it's the fact that no one will ever say the things they say online face to face. They would never, like, it's just not. If you go on Twitter, there's people like Conor McGregor, one of the greatest fighters, and then he tweets something, and then all of the comments are people being like, "Oh, I could beat you up." They wouldn't say that in real life because he would, right? Like
Right.
they're obviously not going to win that fight. And that's just an example of like physical violence, but it's the same thing on the internet is that you can't, the person's not there. So it's really easy to one, say anything because you don't have to look at them. You don't have to see their reaction. You don't have to see their face. You don't have to say it. You don't actually have to muster the courage for it to come out of your mouth. You can just type it. And also there's a layer of anonymity where you can say something and not know who said it. In the case of what happened to me, I know exactly who did it, and that person is no longer with the company. I can either confirm or deny any of my involvement in that. But, I figured out who it was based on their friends telling me that it was them, and also, the way that they spoke. But sort of like a digital handwriting, they used words that only they would use. But there's a layer of anonymity, especially on the much vaster internet, where anyone could have sent those messages. I just happened to figure out who it was based on the context, but it could have been anyone from anywhere across the internet, and I would have basically never been able to figure it out.
Have you ever experienced any people besides being in the company, but so-called friends gossiping, saying negative things about you or about other people, and people joining to gang up on people?
I wouldn't necessarily say gang up, but there's definitely been examples of people that have an issue with someone else then taking it to social media and posting about it instead of bringing that issue to the person and resolving it instead of posting about it and it becoming an entire, ordeal that could have been solved with a conversation, but instead they decided to post about it. And I think it's also in the nature of this story, they misquoted me to make what I said seem a lot worse. And in that sense, that made the entire situation worse because that's not what I said, but they still posted that I had said this thing, and then that's what became the perception of that event.
So they're distorting reality by hiding behind statements which are not supportable, and they're trying to distort someone else's identity so that they can feel better about themselves.
Yeah, they're distorting reality to what they want their reality to look like, which comes back to the same issue of if you can create your entire reality, it's just not healthy because you can create your entire reality online, but as soon as that comes into the real world, it starts to break down and you start to forget which one should be the truth.
And how does this affect self-esteem and mental health when people talk about you online?
Well, because no one likes to be talked about, especially in a negative sense. And a lot of the times when it comes to the internet, it allows for anyone to say anything with little to no repercussion. And so people will say what much worse things on the internet than they would in person because there's no repercussion. And so it can lead to people saying things that are either untrue or so overly mean to the point that they would never say them in person.